order. Welcome back to Yarns for the Soul. I'm your host, Nicole. I am so stoked that you're back here with me. Thank you so much for everyone who has been listening along. Really appreciate the support and the feedback. It's been awesome. If this is your first time joining me, then welcome. Promise this is a safe space. I might be just a little bit quirky, but the best people are, right? And I am excited to bring you some more soulful yarns today. I have another guest, my friend Kimberley. So we met when I was living in Wellington, 2021, and jumped in to do my first personal development course towards the end of that year. And Kim was on the same course with me, so we connected, and then there was a group of us that lived in Wellington, so we called up for coffee dates, which was magical. And that was quite an interesting time in my life because I was making some big choices and figuring out what life was going to look like. And as a result of that course and kind of some introspection, realised that I was going to take a break from law. So it was a very cool time, really, to have met Kim, and she was part of inspiring me to make some big changes, and her own journey has so many interesting twists and turns that you'll get to hear about very shortly, starting from studying geography and English literature over in the UK to opening up her own pole studio in New Zealand, being a school teacher for years, and has recently left that world and is working in recruitment in Wellington. And on the side, she is now helping teachers who are looking for other options. She's helping them transition out, providing support, working on CVs with them, all that practical stuff, and helping them use the right language to promote the transferable skills that they have and figure out what that looks like in a world outside of teaching. So she is just an incredible human. I can't wait for you to hear our yarns. If you love this episode, it'd be awesome if you can jump in and give me a follow, rate, review, preferably 5 stars, no pressure. But again, thank you so much for joining me, and let's jump in. Hello, welcome back. I've got the lovely Kim here. We're going to jump into some yarns soon. Thank you so much for joining me.
You are welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to hear the sultry sounds of your voice, your accent. I just love listening to you talk, so you can yarn for as long as you like.
No pressure.
No, full confidence though.
I'll try. I'll give it a good shot.
Yeah, you've got this. Do we start from the start? How would you describe yourself? Who is Kim?
Oh,
Difficult questions.
it's really hard. That's quite a broad one, that one.
Well, how do you want to be known in the world?
Cool. Fun, vibrant, change maker.
Ooh. I think you're already
Disruptor.
all of that. Yeah. Disruptor.
Yeah, but a cool one. We don't want a weird. I don't want to be a weird disruptor. Nobody likes a weird one.
Yeah, exactly. So you're obviously from the UK, hence the accent.
Yes. So
Yeah.
from the UK originally, moved out to New Zealand about, oh wow, it's almost 18 years. So that's
Really?
I'm at my 50-50 point now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats. Is that a good thing? We're excited about that.
It's a really weird thought because now I'm like, who do I support when major teams are on?
Yeah, you're 50-50.
Yeah. Like
Mm.
I don't even know what to identify myself as. Do I say, oh, I'm Kiwi, but I used to be in England, or am I English,
Mm.
but I'm Kiwi now? I don't know.
You're just full half and half. Or
Yeah.
depending on the day, you can decide which one you
Yeah.
like.
What mood am I in? Oh, I'm really grumpy today. I'll be English. Joking.
So what brought you to New Zealand all those years ago?
I was actually at university in the UK. And my mum is really spontaneous, and she'd one day just applied for this role in New Zealand. So she's medical,
Mm.
and she applied for this role at Tauranga Hospital and got the
Wow.
job. And
What?
she's like, "Do you want to come along?" And I'm like, "Are you mad? No way. I'm busy here. I've just moved away from home. I've got money behind me. I'm like having the time of my
Mm.
life, meeting all these new people.
And
No
you
way
just
do I want to
started
go."
studying at that point. You're like partway through uni.
Yeah, I literally just started. I was in my first year.
Wow.
And so, like, first time away from home, everything was amazing. And I did not want to go back into the family fold. I just left.
Mm.
And then she basically told me I'd be stupid if I didn't come because I'd get residency through her. And I thought about it and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, God, fine. You're right. I'll give it a go then. Worst case scenario, I'll just go back home, hang out with my grandma." 18 years later, I'm still here.
Yeah. So what did you start studying when you were back at home?
So in the UK, I did geography and English literature double major.
Wow.
And then got to New Zealand and discovered this thing called marine studies. And I was like, well, that looks great. I get to go
That
on a
is so
boat,
random.
go diving. It was all like you do marine biology, you
Mm.
do like resource management, all sorts of bits and pieces with it. Really cool trips. And I'm like, I'm down for that. That sounds really cool. You get to do your PADI like qualifications with it, scuba
Yeah.
diving. Like, yes, please sign me up. So I did that. That was great. And then that flowed on to doing into environmental sciences as well. So that's my undergrad. And
Wow.
then
There's just such a range already. I'm kind of already learning things that I didn't know about you.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I like to try lots of different things.
Yeah.
And then after I did that, I was like, oh, what job am I going to do with that now? I don't really know. That at that point, I only really thought about Doc and NIWA and a few
Mm.
enviro agencies and things, and I just wasn't really excited by it. So I actually ended up working for a company that imported and distributed well-known footwear.
Ooh.
Mm.
Okay. That's also very random. So, were you like, when you were a kid, were you interested in the sciencey marine world, whatever? Or you're just like, this sounds fun, let's give it a go?
I've always been very outdoorsy.
Yeah.
I love getting out and about outside. Love going to the beach, all that kind of thing.
Mm.
So that was really appealing on that side. So, and it's also a bit of adventurous, and I love a good adventure.
Yeah.
So that was fun. I enjoyed
Ah.
that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, come out of uni, end up
Yeah,
working for a footwear company.
yeah.
Yeah. And then what happens next?
Then it's such a story. It goes all over the
Tell me the
place. I'm going to
story.
sound like a nutter. Then
This is
during
why I
this
love
time,
it.
right, I started doing pole dancing classes,
Ah, yes.
and I was
That,
like, that's really good fun. I'm enjoying this.
yeah. And it's
And
hard. I did
it's
like maybe 3 or 4 and struggled and gave up.
yeah, it was quite tricky, but I was into it. It was cool.
Nice.
And the chick that owned the company, she was selling it, and I was like, oh yeah, I could buy that. Yeah, go on then. And I talked to her about it, but she didn't want to sell it to me. I was like,
Oh,
oh God, I was so offended. I was like, fine, stuff you then. I'm leaving your club. I'm starting my own one. I'm going to do it cheaper and better. So I did.
oh my gosh.
So I was 24 years old. Not even then. The time I started this, I was 23. I
Yeah.
started my own dance school that was pole dancing.
Wow.
I'd secured a property. I revamped it, got it all going. I had to get custom built poles because I didn't really think about the
Mm.
ceiling height when I took on this thing. And
Where was this?
it was in Mount Maunganui,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I took over it was an old like car garage actually. So I had
Oh,
to
wow.
clean all the flooring because it had like oil on it, and then I had to put new flooring on top so it was like good for dancing. And
Mm.
then I had to get these custom built poles because the ceiling was like, I think it was like 6.5 meters high. So at the
Wow,
time that
right.
these poles got made, I had the tallest pole dancing poles in Australasia.
Good claim to fame.
Yep. And so that all happened. So I did that for a couple of years. And then it just got to a point where I wasn't the right person to drive it anymore. So
Mm.
handed that over. And then you have this kind of, it's almost like a midlife crisis where you're like, what the flipping heck am I doing now? I'm not really secure in my role. I'm
Mm.
messing about here. What are you up to? And so I did personality tests and all sorts of things to try and work out what would be
Ah,
good for me.
yeah.
And then education kept popping up. So I
Mm,
went and did administration in a school for a couple of years. That was quite cool. Really enjoyed
yeah.
that. And then went back to uni at 30 and
Wow.
did a graduate diploma in teaching.
Nice. Where did you study?
Waikato,
Okay, Joe. Yeah.
Waikato Uni. So I lived in
Yeah.
Hamilton for a year for that bit. That was awesome fun.
How did you find going back to study at that point? Was it tough? Or because you found something
No,
you're interested in, you're like, this is great.
no, actually, I'm really social, so I just love the social side of it. Like the
Okay.
learning bit was okay. Like that appealed to like my nerdy side. I'm not
Yeah.
going to tell you it was like riveting or anything,
Mm.
but it was actually all the people I met that I studied with that was my
Yeah.
favorite. That was great fun.
I love it.
And
Just
there was
give me more people.
yeah, and there was quite a few people my age as well, so that was quite
Yeah.
cool. I was expecting to be like, I mean, not that I was ancient at 30, but I
No.
expected to be sat around with loads of young people, and there's me with like the oldest person in the room. But no, I
Mm.
wasn't the case. There was a few of us, and it was really cool.
Mm. Nice. So what was it that kind of had drawn you or like kept drawing you back to the education side of
It
things?
was working with people, building
Yeah.
relationships, helping people, the
Mm.
variety, and the stability that the job provided.
Ah. Yeah.
They were there were like three, well, I think that's more than three, isn't it? A whole bunch of really good things that I was looking for at the time. And
Mm.
so went into teaching and I did that for 6 years. But as soon as I kind of like a good 2 years in, the sheen really wore off.
Mm.
And I found it like, oh God, it was just a chore for me to get
Yeah.
through it. And it was like lots of reasons. Like I loved working with the kids, loved that.
Yeah.
Loved the variety of job, loved all the things I literally just described. But what I wasn't prepared
Mm.
for was the big fat and that comes with it.
Yeah.
And the and is lots of other jobs that comes with teaching. So you end up being like a
Mm.
counselor, a
Mhm.
family guidance counselor. Like I remember one time it was like parents' evening and I had this whole long hour. They were meant to be 10-minute slots, by the way. And it
Yeah.
lasted for an hour of this poor
What?
parent just at their wits' end with their child and didn't know what to do. And
Mm.
I'm there at 31, no kids, like, oh, I don't know. I'll try my
Not
best.
to
Like,
tell you how to parent, but
they literally just offloaded on me for a whole hour and I didn't know what to do about it. So I just sat there and took it.
oh no.
I know, it was pretty bad. I learnt that lesson.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I did that for 6 years and then
Mm.
recently just transitioned out.
Yes. I love the fact that you kind of looked at kind of the different things that you wanted from a job, not the job itself. Because I think that's something that I'm not very good at. Whereas you're like, I want something social,
Mm.
I want something that's going to help people and educate, and then figure out what fits into that box. Because I think
Yes.
most people start with what the job title itself is going to be and then work backwards. So I love
Yes.
that you've just taken a completely different approach. Um, but yeah, there's obviously so many different parts of those roles that no one probably tells you about when you get into it. You think this is your job, but there's all those other aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Um,
I really thought that during teacher training, we were going to do some like at least something around child psychology,
mm,
um, troubled learning behaviors, styles, even like neurodiversity,
yeah.
anything. And there was absolutely nothing in
So
that
what did
realm.
teacher training, your diploma, what did that actually look like? What were you taught?
We taught like how to plan maths and
Okay,
how
so it's the
to break up.
practical.
Yeah, like how to break up maths into subjects and then how to break that down into steps and how to do
Mm.
assessments and track and things like that. How to conduct yourself professionally as a teacher and I know what to
Okay.
expect and all those bits and pieces. And then you went out and did practicums and during the practicums you'd be
Mm.
exposed to some of the behaviors. So you'd see it and witness it, but and you'd kind of learn bits and pieces of
Mm.
other teachers and how they respond to it and take their advice around certain stuff. But in terms of like having somebody go, this is how the brain works. This is neurodiversity. These are all the
Yeah.
different kinds, because there's also multiple shades within that. These are some things that really help those students. This is what
Mm.
trauma looks like, and this is how it
Wow,
can
exactly.
manifest in behaviors. Even like something as simple as when a teenager, because we all know how grumpy they can be,
Mm.
and damn right rude sometimes when they're talking to you with this absolute edge in their voice, you have to
Yeah.
completely ignore it and try and listen to what they're trying to say. What are they
Mm.
communicating, not how are they
How are they
communicating?
delivering it?
That
Mm.
nothing, absolutely nothing on that,
No.
which blows
What
my
age
way
group
really.
were you teaching?
My first job was with year 10, so that's
Wow.
14, around there.
Yeah. That almost feels like probably one of the hardest ages, is it? Because so much is sort of
Yes.
changing and kids are at different stages and
My
like,
dad called it baptism of fire.
yeah, given that's your first job as well.
Yep, it was a lot.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I find it fascinating that you're not actually taught anything about the behavioural side of things during the diploma, and as you said, not actually learning about how the brain works. But then
Yes.
how do you educate people without knowing that background?
So that was 6 years ago, and I haven't checked the program.
Mm,
I don't know if they've now covered that. I have no idea, but back then they did
mm,
not. And in fact, I have learned a lot about it through working as a teacher and doing
mm.
PDs and things like that at school. But that's on the back of the school, or
Ah,
it's on the back of the teacher themselves to actually seek out this professional development.
yeah. Does it depend on like the school and how much funding you have for
It
professional
can do.
development? Yeah.
Yeah, it can do.
Yeah. And then that's something you have to go and find yourself. Like, do you have to find courses that you're interested in doing?
Yep, sometimes.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on the school. Some of the schools are really like proactive and be like, right, we're having this specialist coming in from
Mm,
from neurodiversity studies or whatever it is. I'm not sure.
right.
Various
Mm,
agents and organizations and things that are out there. Or you
yeah.
might find a course and be like, this is really interesting and I can see how it's going to benefit me. Can you please
Mm,
pay for me to do this course? And then depending on the budget and what's available, they might say yes or no.
wow.
Most of the
Did
times
you
no,
find,
unfortunately.
yeah. Was there any particular courses that you remember that were like valuable or?
Do you know, the best learning I ever had was when it was again my first teaching job, and we had a school counsellor there, and she actually realised that there was a huge gap in staff awareness about neuro,
Mm,
like how the brain works, like
mm,
neuro pathways and stuff like that, and how that can be affected because of trauma. So
yeah.
she actually pulled all the staff together and literally was like, this is what's up. This is what's happening. This is why our kids behave like this. And I was like, whoa,
Wow.
no way. And then she was like, you guys should read this book. What was it? What was it called? I think it was like The Boy That Was Raised by Dogs
Oh,
or something
right.
like this. It's a
Ah,
fascinating book
mm,
about this little boy whose family abandoned him, and I think his like parents died and he had this like one
mm,
uncle or something, and his uncle was like this weird guy, lived in the middle of nowhere, just had dogs and did hunting and things like that.
yeah.
I'm getting serious Taika Waititi vibes off the back of this,
Yeah,
but
I'm
it's not
thinking Little
funny.
People. Yeah.
Yes. And this guy literally didn't know how to raise this kid, and he's like, flipping it, okay, well, I'll do what I
Wow.
know and I'll just raise him like a dog. Literally. So he was
Is this
in
a
the
true
kennel.
story?
Yeah, mate, let me look it
Oh,
up again. I want to get the name of this book right.
oh,
I'm pretty
oh,
sure it was The Boy Who Was Raised. Yeah, it literally is. The Boy Who Was Raised as a
yeah.
Dog and Other Stories from a Child Psychiatrist's Notebook
Oh,
by Bruce
wow.
D. Perry and Maia. I can't pronounce the last name, but we'll leave it there.
That's okay. I can,
I'll send you a link and you can put it in the bio. That's what
yeah,
we say,
put
isn't it, when
put
we
it
do
in the show
podcasts?
notes. Yes.
Link in bio.
It does sound slightly traumatizing though, but was
It's
it
actually really,
helpful?
really interesting, incredibly
Yeah.
so. And it was about how this kid literally was raised by dogs, and the kid learned how to be social and learned how to behave from dogs. So
Oh my
when the
God.
services found out about this, and they were like, heavens, we need to go and help this kid, They had to
Mm.
approach him and re-socialize him like a dog.
That's crazy. Did you say he slept in a kennel?
Yeah, he slept in the
Oh my
kennels with the
god.
dogs, like literally would copy their behaviors, followed their social hierarchies and cues, and had like a mum
That's
dog that was really
fascinating.
protective of him and all sorts of stuff. And literally,
Mm.
if that hadn't have happened, like who knows what would have happened.
No, like as an adult, how does that look? Someone that's
Yeah.
been socialized like that.
So he didn't even know how to talk properly, like anything. It was all like dog
Mm.
behaviors.
Oh my gosh.
And that
And
was
so
just
there
his,
was
they had to rework his whole neuro pathways,
mm,
redo all of his like relationships, undo all of the trauma, and help him
mm,
like be a boy.
mm. Wow. It's fascinating. I think it's something that I'm interested about as well, and kind of doing more reading in that area about particularly how trauma affects the brain and long-term effects and
Mm.
physical kind of symptoms and stuff as well. But I guess you've got this bunch of kids that you're trying to teach, but you don't know anything about any of their backgrounds, do you?
Oh, you end up knowing everything.
Oh,
And that's the
okay.
hard part, because you
Ah,
get really emotionally invested and you want nothing more than to just help them. But they're so
mm,
like we don't have the skills, actually, if I'm really honest.
mm,
We don't have the skills to get in there and really give them the help that they need. That's like very
mm.
specialist stuff.
Yeah, and I
And
guess
it,
it'd be quite individual, would it? Where
yeah,
you're
very
trying to
much
teach a
so.
group of what, like 30 kids at once, all with different
Sometimes,
needs.
yeah, it can be a lot.
Mm,
It's a lot to consider. So with like the extreme ones, you want them to have access to the services or whatever it is that they need, but it's actually completely out of your control, and so you're reliant on
mm,
other services either stepping in and taking control, which is a process and it can be drawn out.
mm,
And honestly, it's not fast enough sometimes, or
mm,
on the family themselves, and sometimes they're just not able to make those bold moves. They just don't have the access or um,
mm.
the
Yeah, and
yeah.
is
It's
it
just a hard move. It's really difficult for on many levels.
and I guess difficult for a kid to be potentially sort of singled out or told like, hey, you need extra help, like particularly at that age.
Yep. They know, they're
Mm,
not daft. Like, they
mm.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it really interesting, and I particularly think about some of the clients that I worked with when I was doing criminal defense. I kind of always had a bit of a soft spot for like the younger males, and a lot of them had already been through the youth court and kind of coming out the other end. Um, but there was a couple in particular, like one case that kind of just shook me as I found out after like months of working with him, um, that he had been diagnosed with fetal alcohol spectrum
Oh,
disorder.
that's so common.
And I
It's
had
wild.
it makes me angry because I had no idea. And this kid, he was still so young, he
Mm.
didn't know that it was relevant to give me that information. So it's not his fault.
Mhm.
Um, but also that means that affects how he kind of travels through the justice system. And once I kind of dug deeper and learned more about it, I changed my communication style. I kind of gave him like bite-sized pieces of information rather than trying to explain the whole thing at once. And realizing that he didn't kind of see consequences, so trying to like get him released on bail, and then he would just walk off and disappear because he didn't realize the long-term consequences that that would have. Um, so now, yeah, I find it fascinating that we don't know more about that sort of thing, and in education as well.
Mhm. Yeah. So that when you're exposed to that level of stuff like every day, and you still have to show up and you still have to be jaunty and vibrant and all of those things and really be that
Yes.
solid person for multiple people at the same
Mm,
time, and you
mm,
try and teach, and you've got to do planning, and you have to go to meetings, and you have to be responsible to like your senior leadership team.
mm.
And you'll be running workshops and extracurricular stuff and sports and
Oh, of
events and
course.
trips and
It's just
parents
so much.
meetings. Oh god, it's just, it can get really chaotic.
Mm. Did you have these sorts of conversations with colleagues? Was there like
Yeah.
people you worked with and you're all kind of on the same level? Like, this is
Yeah, but
insane.
like real teachery, I call them teachery people. They just love it all.
They love all
They're
of it.
They love it. They're really into it. Yes, they get like challenging days and it can be
Mm,
really exhausting, but that's their jam. They're really into it. And I'm
mm.
like, far out, I wish I was like that.
Yeah, because I mean, the stuff that you've just been talking about, does it not take a toll, like mental
Yeah.
health wise as well?
Yep.
How do you just keep pushing through? And presumably you're not getting a lot of support in that area.
Now you can. So there's EAP
Mm,
services that teachers
yeah.
have access to. They do a great job, but it's up to you to kind of organize that. So I just, teachers,
Mm,
if you're listening and you need help, go to EAP for anything, even if you're thinking of doing a career change, anything you want, you can
yeah.
talk that through. It's
Mm,
free for teachers. It gets billed back to your school. The
awesome.
school won't find out what you're talking about or anything like that. You don't even have to disclose when or whatever. You just give them a ring. You can
Perfect.
find their phone number on the website. I'll give you the link to that too if you don't have it.
Yeah, love that. How many sessions do you get? Do you know?
I feel like 3.
3? Yeah, that's what we used to have, was 3.
Yeah. So it's
Mm,
just a really good like starting platform, and then from there you'll know if you need to seek extra or anything like that.
mm, yeah. Do you think that's kind of enough support? Do you think there should be more, like, ongoing support for teachers?
Circumstantial, isn't it?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
depends on like which school you're at. Like the last school
Mm.
placement I had was just amazing. It was
Ah,
really, really good. My
yeah.
work-life balance was good. My classes were really good. Everything was manageable. It was good fun. All those
Mm.
things. I left on an oh yeah, I haven't got to that bit yet, but uh,
We'll get there.
I left on
Is
a high.
Yeah.
It
So
was really good.
is it a senior leadership sort of thing? Do they kind of set the tone? Or I guess depending on the area and the like, is it decile? Like,
Hmm.
depending on all of those things?
Yes,
Yeah.
in short to all of that.
Okay. Yeah.
So how senior leadership run the school,
Mm.
what your sort of your team leaders like and what their expectations are for you as a team. The decile that you've got can change your experience as a
Mm.
teacher quite dramatically.
Yeah.
I don't mean that lightly. It really can be massively different. And then also who
Mhm.
is in your team, like do you get on, do you gel well? Just like any team really can impact your work life as well.
Mm. So did you kind of hit like a sort of breaking point? Was there sort of a build up where you're just like, I need out, I need to escape?
So back to the first 2 years
Mm.
that I had, they were like the ones where I was really giving it a go. I was sort of a pre-registered teacher, and I'm just like, oh, this is outrageous. I'm actually not getting paid enough for this.
Yes. Yep.
I was working all day at school. I was dealing with
Mm.
all of the parents, all of the teacher stuff, taking on extra responsibilities. It was just bonkers. And I'm like, I can't believe how much work I'm doing for not a lot
Mm.
of return, financially or emotionally.
Yeah.
Um, I think teachers get taken advantage of sometimes because we do it for the love.
Yes. And it's just kind of assumed that you're there because you enjoy it, but then you just add so many more things to your
Hmm.
plate.
And as I've kind of done a bit more work, so footnote, I met Nicole doing HP Dub
Yes.
with Bryony McKenzie. Very cool, highly
Hmm.
recommended. And so through doing work like that really gets you to look at what your values are, what your belief systems are, what do you want for yourself, and it kind of helps you reorganize your life decisions. And it doesn't have to be anything drastic. You
Mm.
don't have to go around quitting your jobs or anything like that, but it's just about
Yeah.
working out, is what you're doing now gonna get you where you want to be? And after thinking
Mm.
about it, really thinking about it, short answer was no. So I started to explore options. And
Mm.
like I say, the team I had was fantastic. The
Yeah.
school I was at was amazing. And I think without having that, I probably honestly would still be in teaching because I wouldn't have had the space and the time to think about what I want.
Yeah, that's the hard part is once you sort
Yeah.
of, because that's where I found myself, you kind of get stuck in the day to day and then definitely needed some of those pushes that we got from the like personal development course that we did to really start thinking about what do you want your future to look like? What are your
Yeah.
values? And for me, I realized some of the stuff I was carrying around weren't even my values. They were attached like attachments from other people. I'm like, this actually doesn't resonate. So maybe I'll go in a different direction.
Mm,
But if your life is so busy, it's hard to take that time to actually sit down and think about all those things.
yeah. Yeah, and
Mm,
it's kind of like it's awareness as well, because life is busy, big
yeah.
things happen, work is crackers sometimes, but you can still kind of have quick moments to yourself where you're like, oh, am I happy? Am I not happy? Am I enjoying this or not?
Yeah, just to
Am
check
I
in.
earning enough? Is this
Yeah,
worth it for me?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and thinking about kind of the direction that you're going in.
Mhm.
Mm. So how did you figure out what direction to go in? What felt more aligned for where you were heading?
um, Good question.
No pressure.
So it's kind of like, so I'm a bit of a nerd and I like learning things. So
Yes.
I got bored. So part of my life journey as well as a teacher, I worked overseas in China. And then
Yes.
all that fell to custard because of COVID. So I had to come home.
Mm.
And I was teaching online for a big chunk of time there to my
Yeah.
students back in China.
How
And
long
that
were you in China physically for?
I was physically in China for a year,
Wow.
but then worked for almost another year remotely.
For the same school?
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah,
How was that? Was that insane?
yeah. Like I basically for Chinese New Year, I'd left my apartment with a couple of backpacks. One had snowboarding gear in it, one had gym gear in it. Just I don't know, just normal clothes.
Yeah.
And so off I go to Japan. I'm going to go snowboarding. Yep, great, wicked. Couple of weeks there. Come back to work. And so the day I left my apartment, that
Mm.
was the last time I ever was in that room in my apartment.
Wow.
I've still got the key.
Is someone else living in your apartment with all your snowboarding gear?
No, no, I bloody took that with me. Sorry, Swezies. No,
It's
I
okay.
had that with me, and then
Yeah.
I had some friends that were still in China, and I had to employ removals men to go in there and pack up all my stuff to ship it back. And so I
Wow.
literally watched them do that through Zoom, which was
Really?
bizarre.
I didn't
Yeah.
know you could do that. It's kind
Yeah.
of
No,
a really good idea.
she
Do you
just
give
set,
them directions from like
well, I kind of talked to her about it and then she communicated it over,
yeah.
which was quite good. So I was just sat there and she set the laptop up and I was just watching it. It was really funny at one point because this poor little guy walked past the screen with me, his arms like this outstretched, full of all my bras. I was like, oh, mate, I'm really
Oh
sorry.
my god.
It was clearly really uncomfortable about touching strange ladies' bras, which,
Yeah.
that's fair. I can
Yeah, I mean,
understand that.
that is fair enough.
Oh,
Wow. So you got all your stuff home. Well, back to New Zealand.
yeah, but that took a long time. And I
Yeah.
didn't have any, like a laptop or anything. I literally just had my phone. So for the
Mm,
first couple of months or so, until I
wow.
managed to get myself a new laptop, I was teaching lessons through my phone, propped up in a shoe. Because, what are you meant to do?
Exactly. So you left to go like snowboarding in Japan, and
Yeah,
then did you get stuck and you couldn't get back to China
yeah.
or
It got really stressful at one point because somebody stole my coat and it had my passport in it. So I'm like,
oh
oh
my
my God, I can't
god.
get back to China. I can't go to, I'm literally stuck in Japan, no visa, no
Yeah.
nothing. I'm like, oh, this is bad. This is really bad. But luckily, I must have made enough noise or something because miraculously my jacket returned. So that was great.
Oh wow.
And then I was like, right, well, I'll go back to New Zealand because I
Yeah.
don't know what else I'm doing.
Mm.
Um, why were we talking about this? Where
Just
did this
another
come
step in your journey. Do
from?
you think would you have stayed over in China for longer if
Yeah, I would have liked to finish my 2
um,
years at least.
oh, it was
Oh,
going to be 2 years anyway.
yeah, I remembered
Yep.
now why. So when I came back from China, I
Yes.
had lots of spare time and I got a bit bored because I'm a nerd. So
Yeah.
I did a graduate diploma in project management.
Yes. I keep forgetting about all these different parts of your story.
I know.
There is a lot, isn't there?
I
Because
just
you
like
are a
doing
nerd.
things. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't sit still.
No, it's very true. So then I did that. I haven't quite finished it because it got to the research paper bit that you have to do. And I got
Mm,
stumped. I wasn't sure what to research on. So I'm
yeah.
just
So
sitting on that.
why project management? What led you in that direction?
Because I was looking at the skills that teachers have,
Mm,
and what they could transfer over into. And I did a bit of reading around on it and saw that project management could be quite good, because we are really good at spinning lots of different plates at the same time. We've
Yeah.
got huge capacities to hold lots of just hectic things at the same time. We can make really quick split-second decisions about lots of things. We can deal with uncertainty. We're used to change.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why not? Let's have a look. Let's see what this is about. And then
I
it was
love
kind of
that.
like, just one day I was at my friend's house, just talking, him and his dog. Wife was there.
Yeah.
It's a nice cup of tea. And I
Mm.
was just sort of having, not a whinge, but I'm like, oh, I've been ready for a couple of years now
Mm.
to leave teaching, but I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do or how to start it.
Yeah.
And then he was like, you should talk to my brother. He works in recruitment.
Mm. Right.
So I did, and then just
Yes.
had lots of casual conversations with people in the company, and then I'm here.
Yeah. You're sitting in an office.
Right
It
now. Yeah.
all happened.
No, I'm not. I'm not at work
Oh.
at all. I'm at home.
Yes. Sorry. We can cut that bit out. You're actually working really hard right now.
Yeah, it's my lunchtime.
Yes. So what was it about recruitment then that appealed to you? Was it just something different?
People,
Yeah.
connection,
Yeah.
relationships.
There you go.
And I'm still helping people.
Mm.
I'm finding out who they are, what are their drivers, what do you enjoy, what is it about you that makes you you? Where do you want to
Mm.
be? What have you done? How can we, you know, get these really cool roles across to you that you're going to enjoy, that's going to be interesting to you, and
Mm.
also make you lots of money, hopefully. Everybody likes that
Yes.
bit. And it's actually
Yeah.
really cool when you find somebody a job, because they're like, this is amazing. Thank you so much. They're so thankful. And you're like, you are welcome. Not once did a kid come across to me and go, thanks for helping me do anything, actually, except for one time, when you tie up the laces, they're quite happy about that.
So you're getting more positive feedback from the people that you're actually helping now.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that because we had a chat recently. You've been helping me as well sort my life out, sort out my
Mm.
CV, and actually having someone ask the kind of those questions, which I also hadn't really thought about, is what do you want from a job? Because I think I probably had this mindset, particularly when I was younger and just starting out, is I'll be grateful for any law job because they're really scarce and hard to get into and whatever. So you kind of push through rather than flipping it and thinking about what do I want? What's important to me?
Yeah. So I've done quite a few workshops around that too. And so the first part is getting really, really clear
Mm,
on yourself and
yes.
finding a role that fits with that, not the other way around. You don't make yourself fit
Mm,
into a role, because that's like square peg round hole scenario.
mm,
Unless you've randomly looked out and you're loving it,
yes.
you should
Yeah.
definitely do that groundwork first.
Yeah. And it's crazy that we don't think about these things earlier or were not encouraged to because you spend so much time at work and you
Hmm.
might be hating it.
Exactly. You're too busy being busy to think about
Yes.
it. And
Yes.
sometimes it's really funny, actually, the amount of stuff that you don't know until you know, even the simple stuff. So I'm
Mm,
saying this, and I bet it's so obvious. It makes complete sense. But do you do it? Are
exactly.
people thinking like that?
Mm. And so you've been doing some really awesome work helping teachers as well since you've left.
I
Do you want to tell us a
have.
bit more about that?
So when I was making my transition out of teaching, I was looking for kind of a support network for that.
Mm,
I needed help translating my CV. I needed
mm,
help, like, interview prep. Even you bit out of touch, and education
yeah.
CV is really different. The recruitment process is really different. Everything's really different to when you're doing it as a teacher and within education. So I was looking for a bit of
Mm,
insight around that. What were my transferable skills? What are kind of cool industries I could go into? What options are available? What do other people think about teachers, and would they employ us?
ah, yeah, that's true. And I guess, as you said, yeah, selling it in the right way. Like you were saying, your skill set transfers almost perfectly over to like project management, which is completely different.
Mm, yeah,
Mm.
very different. And recruitment actually is massively different, but kind of not at the same time.
Yeah, it's the same kind of core skills, isn't it?
Getting to know people, relationships are key.
Mm.
And that's what they'll tell you in education. Everywhere you go, relationships are key. Build your relationships, get to know your students.
They have that on posters, like in the staff room.
Do you know what? I bet you they do. I bet you any money they do.
Oh
It'd be
no.
really graphically cheesy as well with like pencils on it and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe some like holding hands, some
Yeah.
silhouettes in the playground.
I'm cringing already
I
at
know
the mental
that's it.
image.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it for me. I just sometimes I'd be sat around in staff rooms, or I'm just like, oh God, I don't think I fit in here anymore.
Get me out of here.
Not so much get me out of here, but it was just like,
Uh,
oh, this
yeah.
doesn't feel quite right.
Mm.
Not that it's
So you're
wrong, it just wasn't quite right for me. So
mm,
when I was looking for my support anyway, I noticed that there
yeah.
wasn't any in New Zealand at all. So I had to
Mm.
do some research, and most of the help that I got was from overseas, which helped to an extent, but
Yeah.
also was a bit of a blocker too. Like the roles are a bit different here. What are the salaries? I needed to know a bit about that
Mm.
because I couldn't drop too low. Turns out
Yeah.
that wasn't a problem 'cause my salary was already low.
Yeah, funny that when the government's paying you.
Mm, that was interesting. So I learned a
Mm.
lot. And then
Mm.
through my work as well, I also learned a lot about CVs and networking and how to
Mm.
approach people, how to have conversations that might be a bit uncomfortable, like around negotiating a salary, or
Mm.
um, how to make contact with somebody if you've got questions about the role without
Yeah.
looking like you're ill-informed or
Mm.
a bit unprepared or something.
Yeah. So is that all kind of like base training that you had kind of as soon as you got into this role?
No, the training we
Or
have is a bit different, but you kind of learn that along the way. You can't not learn
mm.
that stuff. It
Yeah,
just
exactly.
happens. So part of my role
Mm.
is when CVs get sent across, I have to look at them all, and then
Mm-hmm.
if they need a bit more information or a bit more development, I will talk to them and ask them some
Yeah.
questions and just ask them to rework their CV. So I took that
Ah,
learning and extended it to my teachers group,
yeah.
because a lot of them are stumped on how do you make, I call
Mm.
them real world CVs.
Yes, outside the teacher bubble, I guess.
Yeah. And how can you
Mm.
say what you've done in a way that makes sense to people outside of education,
Mm.
so they understand actually how much it takes? So I could say planned lessons, and teachers know what that means. There's quite a lot involved in that.
Yeah.
The
Whereas
process
I
is
kind
quite
of
long.
have an idea of what that is,
Mm,
but wouldn't be able to pick out like specifics.
yeah. So you
Mm.
have to like pull it out and
Yeah.
get really explicit and clear so they
Mm.
know exactly what you've been doing.
Yeah. So you found there was no network in New Zealand and you created your own, basically.
Did. I made
Of
one,
course.
and it works. People are
Yeah.
joining it and
So what is it called? How do we
interacting.
find you?
It's called New Zealand Transitioning Teachers, or NZ Transitioning Teachers, and it's on
Yeah.
Facebook. It's a closed group, so it's all
Love
secure.
it.
And I did that on purpose rather than a page
Mm.
for the group's privacy. You
Yes.
can post anonymous as well if you want to, if you're not
Mm.
sure who's in the group. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
true.
there to encourage people to leave teaching. It's not
Mm.
there to bag teaching. It's there for people that are already in the mind frame and the thinking of, hmm, what else is out there? How can I find out? Who can I ask these
Mm.
questions to? Because once you
Exactly.
start
It's a
that
safe
thinking,
space.
well, yeah, and when you start thinking
Mm.
like that in school, you're not going to turn around to your peers and your
Yeah.
team leader and start asking them questions about leaving the job. It can be a bit lonely.
Mm. Yeah. So that's the sort of purpose, I guess, for the page is so that people can have that discussion and get input. Who's the is that kind of the target
Yeah.
audience? The people that
Yep.
are already kind of thinking about leaving?
Yep. So you can post up
Mm.
questions if you want to. It's completely free. I have to approve them
Mm.
because I'm a bit protective of my group. I don't want
Yes,
anybody
that's
posting
okay.
anything willy-nilly or being, silly. So, but I
Mm,
approve pretty much everything.
yeah.
So you can ask questions. I post job opportunities that come up. I've
Ah,
run a
cool.
few workshops now around CVs and all things CV. So they've been really good,
Wow.
positive feedback. I've been
Yeah.
doing one-on-one sessions, just sort of similar
Mhm.
to what we did.
Yeah.
And I ask you a series of really weird questions that help you
But
work
great
out
questions.
a little bit about who you are. We just kind of scratch the surface. We talk about your
Mm,
experience and what you've been doing and what that means and how we can translate it. And then we look at the
mm,
CVs and all sorts of things and talk about different industries that could work and different roles.
mm. Love that. Is there a space in the group for people that have already left that want to kind of join the
Yes,
community?
we need that too because those guys will have a different experience to me and they'll have
Mm,
different insider knowledge and tips and all that kind of stuff. And they also bring with them their own network. So I've got my
mm.
network of people that I've been meeting and they'll have theirs too. And you never know, they might one day be like, oh my God, we need somebody, teachers, you'd be great for this.
Yeah. Perfect. It's just creating that community, isn't it? And then kind of
Hmm.
looking out for each other and sharing those experiences. Because I
Hmm.
guess it's probably, depending on how long you've been in education for as well, it could be quite scary kind of stepping outside the box.
It
And being
can
like,
be.
what's this is the real world. I mean, speaking from my own
Yes.
experience as well, leaving
And
a
actually,
particular
there is,
industry.
you'll know this, that like when you step out, there's almost like you need aftercare as well, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I tell you what, going from a teaching lifestyle to a corporate lifestyle was, I don't think I could have made it
Mm.
any more different if I'd tried. So
Yes,
it took a wee
completely
while
different
for like
vibe.
my nerves and my stress levels to come down and to get used to it and adjust. That
Mm.
takes a bit of time. And it's just allowing yourself that time to work through that and just calm down.
Yeah, you've got
Take a
this.
minute.
Yeah. Is it also nice that, like, when you leave the office at the end of the day and go home, that's it? Like, you get to leave work behind?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That's really good. But you know what? They say like recruitment, you're never really off the clock. And it can be true in a way.
Oh,
Like,
really?
yeah, so if somebody's done something or they need a bit of support, they might message you on the train on the way home, or
Ah,
um,
okay.
they might send you a text message here and there. Oh, I can't find my timesheet, or anything. Literally could be anything. And
Yeah.
once a job's on, it's on.
Ah,
Gets
okay, so
quite,
you still have to be available
yeah.
a
You want
little
to
bit.
get it
Yeah.
done.
Mm, yeah. What are the like, can we have a couple of highlights from the job that you're in now? What are you loving most about it?
Getting out there, meeting people,
Yeah.
networking, learning about all the different roles out there and what people do. And you can get in there and ask the nosiest questions. And it's not weird because it's part of my job as a recruiter to ask the questions. People will answer them, and you're
Yeah.
like, this is awesome because I'm so nosy. I can even ask, like, how much do you earn? And that's not rude. So I've got a
No.
really good lens across a few different industries and roles
Mm,
on what people are getting, what their salaries are.
mm,
I can ask and find out really explicitly on an employer's side, what specific skills are you looking for? What are your requirements? What
mm.
kind of person would you like?
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
You'll have, yeah, all of this useful knowledge and skills. I'm just thinking about my future needs as well. I'm like, I'll just keep coming back and asking you questions.
You absolutely should. Definitely.
Yes.
And we have a legal team here, and the company I
Mm.
work for is across 31 different countries in the world,
Ooh, there we
including
go.
London.
Yeah.
Just throwing that
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. I need to do some Googling, see what I can find.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
are
excuse me, I'm losing
you
my voice.
we can stop talking soon. And then you have to go back to work.
Mhm.
Is your I guess is your focus or passion on kind of helping teachers, or is it more broadly your own kind of passion project? Where do you see it like expanding?
So there's two sides. I've got like my
Mm,
job side, and I
yes.
I just love helping people find jobs
Yeah.
and connecting them to their work. It's really fulfilling and rewarding. And on the other side, I'm using that to actually share
Mm,
with teachers as well. And I
yeah.
love working with teachers and helping them work out who they are and what way up they are. outside of
Mm,
teaching. You're not just a
yeah.
teacher, you're a person with values and beliefs and skills and all of those things. You're not
Mm,
stuck in teaching. That's not the only thing you can do.
yeah,
And so I find it
exactly.
really rewarding when you can take those blinkers off and open their world up. And they're like, wow. And just watching the confidence grow in them is amazing, because all of
Mm,
a sudden they're like animated, they're excited, they're keen,
mm,
they're putting themselves out there. And that can take a lot.
yeah, exactly. And I guess a lot of it is sort of going back to probably some of the sort of tools and skills that we learnt through like the personal development work that we've done as well. So I guess there's a lot from that that you can draw on as you're kind of
Absolutely.
guiding people through the process.
Yes.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have a vision for where this is going?
No, and I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It will go where it needs to go.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't have to make it go anywhere. It will just be its own thing and make itself. That's the
Mm,
beauty of a community. They'll
mm,
ask for what they need, and then I can find it or deliver it. And
mm.
if I
And you have,
can't, somebody else can.
yeah, that space to change and grow and invite other people in to answer those questions. And
Hmm.
mm, I love that you've just created this whole thing, and that seems to be kind of one of the things about your whole journey is if something doesn't exist, you'll just create it. You'll do it yourself, which
Yeah.
is amazing because not
Just,
everyone thinks like that.
I think that's wild. I need this. It's not there. Fine, whatever. I'm going to make it.
Yeah, but just having that kind of drive and determination and capacity, be like, we'll just make it happen, which is amazing.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
You can. Off you go.
I think that's a great place to finish. Just, you can, off you go.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Oh, thank you so much chatting with me today, Kim. Yeah, I'm excited to see what the next steps of your journey look like and what you tackle next, because there's been a lot so far.
Strange, isn't it? When you really think about it, you're like, wow, you've done some things.
You have, yeah, just collecting pieces along the
Mm.
way.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you so much.